What happens when a world-class nutritionist uses blood panels, cellular biology, and fact-based science to create and monitor healthy eating plans with supplements for her clients? Everyone wins. Welcome to Power on Your Plate with Haylie Pomroy, an educational experience that gives you both the actionable and practical tools you can use every day to get your health, weight, and life back on track.
Hi, everybody. It's Haylie Pomroy, your nutritionist. And today I have a very special guest. Anne is joining me from our beloved community. And we're going to go through creating a request for care, or how you can engage with your healthcare practitioner. It is very important in that short but valuable amount of time that you have with whatever practitioner you're engaging with, whether it's your internal medicine doc, a neurologist, a nephrologist, your acupuncturist, your chiropractor. It's very critical that during that time you effectively convey what you want in a partnership, what your expectations are, but also the why you want it. You kind of have to, in this day and age with the way our healthcare system is justify the action by your partner, who's your healthcare practitioner. So, Anne, I want to start with you. Thank you so much for being here. It's really lovely that you're open to sharing this. I know that this is going to help thousands of people make a change in their own health and wellness. Can you just give me a little bit of color on what, besides me coercing and begging, how I got you to join me today?
You bet. And thank you, Haylie, for your help. Well, I've been on FMD and a lot of your other programs for the last 4 months, and I've lost about 32 pounds. And I would think that I'd be feeling great, but I'm still not. I'm very, very fatigued and not wanting to be very amorous with my husband right now. And so I went to the doctor and asked her to run, a pretty extensive metabolic panel, and she didn't. She only ran the basic one, and I asked her especially to do a full thyroid panel because I'm hypothyroid, and she said only if you're out of range on your thyroid. And of course, it came back in range. So again, I'm not feeling super great. I feel good, but not great like me. And so I want to get some help in talking to her.
That's great. And I think I really feel like preparing my clients in the clinic to engage a healthcare practitioner and putting it in writing I honestly believe it's probably one of the most valuable assets that I've learned to offer over the last 26 plus years. And kind of what you shared with me is something that I hear so often, which is, we get into this situation where maybe we can't articulate effectively in a way that will inspire the physician to take action in a way that you feel is the best for yourself. I'll share one quick thing. You had just said you recently had, was it approximately about 32 pounds of weight loss?
Yes.
So from an endocrine perspective and in the fertility world, we look at 10% of either weight gain or weight loss as a significant endocrine event, so much so that it can change your entire endocrine profile, because fat cells and adipocytes are actually an accessory endocrine gland. So like the thyroid or the pituitary or the ovaries, the adipocytes, think about 32 pounds, it's like having an ovary resected or taken away, right? Mm-hmm. It is equivalent to surgicizing a part of or a portion of an endocrine gland. So that's really important. And sometimes physicians kind of forget about that. They equate maybe a little bit of our belly fat to a cheeseburger or a cheesecake, and they don't equate it to the validity and the value of your ovaries or your adrenals or your pituitary or your thyroid. So that's one of the first things as we fill out the request for care, is that we want to talk about, some of the concerns, and we also want to remind them of something that maybe they forgot since they've been in medical school. Who knows? We always want to assume that. A little funny caveat, I was with a actually a relative of mine in the emergency room, and I had requested some labs. And they said, well, we'll run this, but we won't run that. And I said, okay, just a minute, can I ask you why not? And they said, well, I don't feel like it will be off. And so therefore I don't want to run it. And I said, well, and I can be a little sassy, and I don't suggest that people are sassy, but I said, I appreciate your feelings. However, she's in the emergency room because she doesn't feel good. So she wants it run. So I think the person that trumps on this decision is her. And he said, well, I'll only run it because she wants me to. And I said, that's awesome, because she's the patient. So I was sassy. I didn't have time to write things down. Again, we were in the emergency room. Thank God they ran it. It was very important. But knowing how to ask those questions is hard on the fly. You got to remember, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. So it's one of the reasons why we do the request for care, is because when you're in that office, you can send this ahead of time, you can give it to the nurse, and then you have it to refer back to, and to just keep repeating, but I'm having some health issues that are concerning to me. So when we fill out a request for care, the first thing that I have you do, which you did, Anne, which was awesome, is fill out your health wish list, which is awesome, and also a self-assessment questionnaire. Both of those are available on your member section of the website. You can also go on your member Facebook and ask. Our group is amazing. They'll shoot you the links and all that stuff. But it's important that you know where you're at and where you want to go to. So, Anne, I want to ask you, let's play just for a minute with kind of our top 3 things that are concerning us. So that would come from your self-assessment, and then our top 3 things that are on the wish list. And I've looked, and we have, like, let's say you make 20, 30, 40 things on your health wish list. I want you to dream really big before you go to your doctor's office. Sometimes people have I don't know why. Sometimes we feel like that's not the place for us to ask for an amazing life. It's when you're in emergency room, I understand crisis intervention, but when you're engaging a practitioner and a team member, we want to dream big. So I'd like you to take 3 of the things on your self-assessment questionnaires, things that are concerning to you right now, and 3 things on the health wish list, and let's play with those a little bit, okay?
Okay.
So on this, let me start with one thing. First and foremost, are you on any medication? Do you mind? Okay, can you tell me what those are?
Yes, I take a thyroid medication.
Do you know which one?
Thyroxine.
Levothyroxine?
Levothyroxine, thank you.
And how much?
125 milligrams.
Okay. So couple things that I want everybody to do before you go into the doctor's office. On your request for care, start on the back page of it. I want you to write, so we have a protocol for progress sheet too. You can fill that out if you want, or you can do it this way. So levothyroxine is a generic for Synthroid. She's on 125, is it micrograms, mcg or mg?
It's probably mcg.
Yeah, you scared me for a second. Did I look not unaffected? I'm like, no problem, she's on 40 grams. Okay, so 125 micrograms. I want everybody to do their homework, and I want you to do 3 things when you are on a medication. I want you to know what the generic name is. I want you to know what the commercial name is. So this is commercial, this is generic for Synthroid. I'll tell you why I want you all to do this in just a second. And then I want you to know what the drug is. So this is a T3 or a thyroid, I'm sorry, a T4, a thyroid hormone. It'll say T4, or you have thyroid. I teach a lot about this, T3. The difference is an iodine molecule, okay? So you're on a T4. The thyroid produces T4, primarily a little bit of T3, and the liver converts it into T3 by plucking off an iodine molecule. Did you see me do that? Woo. The liver does it. The reason why I say this, Anne, is because I looked at your sheet. The liver also metabolizes the B12, and I know that you said you have high B12. So my brain's going, oh, she's going to be so fun to work with.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're on levothyroxine. She's on 125 micrograms. Make sure you look at your bottles. Make sure you write this down. I cannot tell you, and I've been in multidiscipline practices where we have everything, nephrologists, in-house labs, cardiology, fertility doctors, OBGYN, you name it. I cannot tell you how many times we have issued the wrong medication at the wrong potency, and we don't recognize or realize it until 4 or 6 months later. So you need to know what you're on, why you're on it, how much you're on, and what the heck-a-doodle the drug is. Okay? Okay. Any other medication?
Yes, I'm on rosuvastatin.
Simvastatin?
Yes, rosuvastatin. Yeah.
Okay. And that's go ahead.
20, is it micrograms or milligrams?
Milligrams.
Milligrams. Okay.
Okay. And so the other thing with the drug, so this is a statin drug, and the goal for this drug is to reduce the body's ability to produce LDL or a particular kind of density of cholesterol. Remember, though, that cholesterol is the building block for all of our sex hormones: estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. It is responsible for thyroid metabolism. So the metabolism of the cholesterol molecule. So we're on a medication that's suppressing that. And we want to look at ranges, right? So the range of this drug, I just know this in my brain, but you can look it up on PubMed or drug.com. It doesn't matter, is 5, believe it or not, to 80 post-surgery. Usually for a long use of it, it usually ranges from 5 to 20. So you want to know when you walk in that you're on the higher end of the dosage. And then we want to know what in the world the drug is supposed to do. So in your body, the drug is supposed to keep your cholesterol and your triglycerides below 100 and below 200 is what they're typically shooting for. And
yeah, and I had a heart attack 12 years ago, and my cholesterol was great, although my good cholesterol was low. But they said, you'll be on a statin the rest of your life.
Right.
So I had to try and figure out which one worked for me, and this one does. So I've been on it 12 years.
So that makes sense as to why they would. So this is super important when you talk to your physician. Believe it or not, even if it's the same physician that saw you post heart attack, he might not remember that episode. So you need to remind him that you had a heart attack, and you need to remind that doctor that wasn't willing to run the thyroid that I had a heart attack. This is super important in requested care. Please note that I recently lost 32 pounds, and that is affecting my hormones. Okay. And you want to say, because the fat cells are an accessory endocrine gland. I would literally write that. The other thing that you want to say on your second line right here is, please note that because of my heart attack 12 years ago, I have been on a very high level of statin drugs that can also affect my hormone production, as you know, doctor. So let me ask you, are you on D? Do they put you on a vitamin D?
They did, because I was low, but when I had the panel last week, my D is also high.
Right. So remember, I wish I could, I need a board. So I'm just going to draw a quick thing really quick, and then I'm sorry, guys, I promise I'll keep rolling. I'm going to draw a really quick thing, and then Ann, I'm going to send it to you.
Oh, good.
But I hope that everybody can already see how important it is that we have this kind of thought process before we go into the doctor's office. Because Ann, you've already told me really profound things that are letting me know that we need to have a really deep conversation with our doctor, and we might only have 3 to 7 minutes for which to do so. Progesterone, estrogen, glucocorticoids. So here we go. And this is going to be backwards, but I'm just going to show you. Cholesterol, the liver converts it into a master hormone called pregnenolone. Pregnenolone then converts it into estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, vitamin D. So remember, we've got a drug that's suppressing our cholesterol production. So therefore, we're not metabolizing our vitamin D. It's just one of the end pathways. And that's okay. We can work around. Once we know what the medication's doing and what the purpose and the reason for it, we can work around how to nurture the body metabolically, right? The other thing is it regulates mineral corticoids and glucocorticoids. Mineral corticoids regulate the blood pressure. Any history of blood pressure issues?
Yeah, it used to be really high, and now I'm off my blood pressure med, and it's normal. So
awesome. Perfect. So when we and now you're your vitamin D is high or low?
High.
Because
It
you're
was-
on a vitamin D supplement.
Right.
Got it. Okay, so back to this thing really quick. We've really supported mineral corticoids by your weight loss, right? Because those have stabilized, which is why your body is no longer deficient in blood pressure medication, right? We've stabilized your body's ability to metabolize vitamin D, which is why the levels came high when you're taking a fat soluble vitamin. So we no longer have that deficiency that we need to compensate for.
Okay.
We're looking at where are your HDLs and your LDLs?
She forgot to run that this time, but they've always been, my HDL now is in the high 50s, and my LDL it's right around 100. It's pretty good.
No,
No?
it shouldn't. No, your LDL should never be below 140. So that's okay. You might be thinking of your triglycerides.
Yeah, so it's probably around 150. My LDL is low.
Okay, so one thing that we want to do is we want perfect. We don't want too high or too low, right? Because again, that's a lot of energy. It's also really important when we have, I know that you shared that you had a car accident of recent. You also had surgery of recent. So the adrenal glands, just from the anesthesia, let alone the healing and trauma repair from a incision being surgicized, right? I always tell people, they say, gosh, I had surgery. I signed up for it. I had, as you all know, I had several surgeries from my car accident. I signed up for it. I made the appointment. I wrote a big fat check, it was all intentional, and I'm having all this adrenal thing. It is equivalent to being knifed, okay? You are cut open. That is not a normal physiological thing, and so we have to deal with that stress and really nurture those adrenals. It's the same with a car accident. There's a lot of trauma that physiologically happens to the body that we have to nurture and feed those kind of coming back. So I know that you had mentioned about sleep and you had mentioned about anxiety post-accident. Right. Okay, so give me two more things on your health wish list, because I already know what I'd write to the doctor walking in the door, but and that's what we're going to do here.
Yeah, so one is to really get my numbers in line. Like I said, my vitamin D was high, my vitamin B12 was high, and then, this fatigue thing is just, it's kicking my butt. I have so many things I need to do and want to do, and I'm just exhausted all the time. If I sit down in the chair and close my eyes, I'm out.
Got it. Okay. So the way I start with the Dear Dr. Sanders letter is, in the beginning, I always want to express my health concerns, right? And I always try to come up with a lot of adjectives, the most expressive way in order to communicate. Because again, you have to remember that these people are working, long hours with a lot of patients, a lot of, trauma care or whatever, and you have to wake them up to your passion of being healthy during a very short amount of time, right? And then what we do is we want to list, you'll see the lines that say because of, I would like to run, okay? So we want to list our 4 top because ofs, and then we're going to start with the because ofs, then we're going to go to the concerns, and then we're going to remind them who you are and how special you are and how important it is that they get this right. And I call ahead for a lot of my clients, and I say, I want to let you know we've sent this over. You can call ahead for yourself. I want to let you know I've sent this over. Please make sure the nurse and the doctor review it ahead of time. Doesn't matter if anybody reads it ahead of time. The staff knows that you're that committed to yourself, right? So I always tell my daughter, there's a reason why there's a armed guard in front of Tiffany's Jewelers, and there's not in front of Sears jewelers, and it's the value of those diamonds, and it's really perceived value, right? So you want to be that armed guard, you want that presence when you walk in the doctor's office, that you are a really delightful and most important person that they're going to see all day long. Okay?
Okay, well, of course.
Because you're my client. Okay, sorry guys. Can you tell I get a little protective? So the things that I came up with 3, and I want you to come up with the fourth one. I wrote because of significant fatigue. I wrote because of significant weight loss, and because of extreme exhaustion. Okay. And the reason why is because when you're coding an insurance, weight loss, more than 10% again of the body weight, there's a lot of yeses that the insurance companies will say to insurance. So it helps the doc. The other is extreme fatigue and extreme exhaustion. There's actual diagnostic codes for those. So it helps the doc. I'm trying to be helpful, not just sassy. Okay. So now you need a fourth one because
my basic metabolic panel highlighted some irregularities.
Like what?
The high B12, the high vitamin D, the high triglycerides.
Okay, so I'm going to help. So I'm going to say something that I would never record. They really, most of the time, they're not going to care about your vitamins.
Okay.
I'm just telling you, you can talk to them all you want. Most of the time, unless they're selling you vitamins when you walk out the door, they're not going to care about your vitamins.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
But
even if your doctor's amazing, go ahead.
When I looked, and of course the web's always right, that high B12 can be an indication of a blood disorder like leukemia, or a liver issue, right?
For sure.
Correct. And so I'm like, wow. I mean, it's really high. It's like 1497, and it's not supposed to be over 800.
Totally agree with you. I agree with you. So what we want is a liver panel run, and what we want is a metabolic panel with your CBCs, with your white count, your red count. We want all those run, but most of the time, they're not going to get run because of a high B. So we've got to make another reason to run them. I believe you in the fact that an elevated B, although it's a water soluble vitamin and why you're not processing it out, I do agree with you that it's good to rule out these things. It's typically when there's a vitamin one, they'll say just stop taking your D, and are you taking anything with B vitamins?
That's what they did.
Yeah, gotcha. So I am with you. So what we want to say is so we go backwards. We say, okay, so you brought up like leukemia, you brought up like liver disease. So what would we run metabolically to rule that out, right? So we want to say, okay, so the panel that we want is we want a liver panel, we want a lipid panel, but the way we're going to get it is because you had a heart attack and you have high triglycerides. See what I'm saying? So your lipid panel and your liver panel are going to get us to see if there's liver disease and leukemia and all that stuff, but you're not going to get it by saying I don't believe. You're going to get it by saying you have a high B. So the thing that's more important to a physician is that they've got a patient that 12 years ago had a heart attack and now has elevated triglycerides. So we need to see if it's a liver enzyme issue, if it's a lipid metabolism issue, or if it's an inflammatory issue.
Right.
So we're going to say because of my history of heart attack, and elevated triglycerides. And I hope you guys understand that I'm not by any stretch of the way and trying to devalue the vitamin D elevation and the B elevation. I value that so much. I'm just trying to get your labs run that we want run.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the last one will be because of history of a heart attack and elevated B12, we want a lipid panel. Lipid panel will test HDL, LDL. Remember this, handy dandy, HDL. Those are the good lipoproteins, okay? LDL, low down dirty lipoproteins. Those are the bad lipoproteins. We want a lipid panel with triglycerides, and we want a liver panel. That'll be ALTs, GGTs, ASTs, ASOTs, all of those will be in if you say lipid panel and liver panel.
Okay.
Now, I like to, with my clients, I highlight the labs that we ask for. So this second line right here, I always highlight the labs that we ask for in yellow, because then I take this with me when I go to the phlebotomist and I say, just to make sure, did the doc run these? And they look and they go, oh, they ran a liver panel, but not a lipid panel. Well, I'm going to sit here. Can you call them really quick? Because we agreed on a lipid panel.
Right.
Let them call back to the office before they draw their blood. And what they did, to my husband, we were at UCLA and they said, well, we'll just draw it and then we'll call the doctor later. And we said, no, we'll just sit here and get it done. Because what'll happen is a lot of times insurance won't cover for you to redo your labs like for another 6 or 8 months or even 12 months with some. And then you're kind of SOL sitting there wondering how we should feed the body and feed the metabolism, right?
Right. Well, and that's what happened. They didn't run the lipid panel.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. So that's why you're going to highlight it in yellow.
Okay.
And then you're going to say, we agree, right? We agree. Yay. And then you're going to go to the phlebotomist and go, my doctor is the most amazing person in the whole wide world. And I happen to be super organized. So let's just make sure we ran all this and we're all kumbaya and singing and we can learn about our chemistry and we can be the most healthiest patient. And you can tell everybody what an amazing doctor you have. Okay. So if I heard you correctly, there's a couple things that would make you feel better about how you're proceeding with your health. One is a CBC, or you want to look at white cells, red cells. You want to make sure that you're kind of ruling out the leukemia stuff, right? So,
Yes.
so one last thing that I forgot is in your lipid and your liver panel, you need to ask for a CRP. And remember, this is all in the Food RX book, guys, what labs to check. Your CRP is your cardiovascular specific reactive. It's a reactive protein. So it's for heart. It's inflammatory marker. Okay. We can ask for it because of the accident, but they're going to usually say you're so post. But with an individual that's had a history of heart attack, especially an individual that had a heart attack that had a stable LDL, it indicates that your heart issue was inflammatory related versus lipid related.
Right.
So that's a marker for her. So you need to say, okay, I had a history of a heart attack and elevated triglyceride. Please note at the top, when you say please note, I had a heart attack 12 years ago despite stable lipids, and I am prone to inflammation. So when you say, because of a history of heart attack and elevated triglycerides, and I'm hyper inflamed because of my car accident, I want a CRP. So now you've given them all the reasons of what you want. So it's really important to define what you want. But now you got to make your story, make your case. And I'm sorry that I spend so much time and people pay me thousands and thousands and thousands. It's almost embarrassing to go in and navigate this for them. But in some people's, it is literally an issue of life and death, right? Whether you get the true partner in your health.
Right.
So, okay, so we're going to go back to our significant fatigue, our weight loss, and our exhaustion. So significant fatigue and weight loss. Let's go there first. I heard that you said actually, let's go backwards because I'm dyslexic. Let's go extreme exhaustion. You want a CBC and a basic metabolic panel.
Okay.
And what I like to say is to rule out any low-grade infection or deficiencies. So that's a great one. Whenever you're asking for a CBC and a basic metabolic panel and you're exhausted, I always say, I just need to rule out any low-grade infections and I need to rule out any deficiencies. So now we have our fatigue and our weight loss left. And if I hear from your wish list, you would like a comprehensive thyroid panel. And this is what I would say. Because of significant weight loss and being on a high level of T4, because now you're super savvy in what you're taking, right? I would like to check T3, T4, TSH, free and total, and reverse T3. I'm a huge advocate when I have an individual that's had a heart attack with stable lipids. So if you're telling me like I had a heart attack and my triglycerides were 280 and my HDL was 39 and my total cholesterol was 486, right? I know you're not. I know. I looked at your chart enough to go, not that profile, right?
Right.
But you're telling me we have an inflammatory propensity, at least for 12 years. We're
Right.
also telling me, do you know why you went on Synthroid?
Well, the fatigue got so bad, and they had been testing my thyroid all along, but all of a sudden it just dropped.
Right.
And it was very sudden.
So my suspicious brain says that we should check maybe the antithyroid antibody or thyroid peroxidase, because 125 micrograms, of Synthroid is a lot. You should be like swinging from the frickin' chandeliers and chasing your husband down before he walks in the door. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you need to communicate that stuff. Like, I'm not swinging from, I'm on 125 micrograms of T4. I should be chasing the man down, swinging from the chandeliers, and, pouring cups of energy to my neighbors, for after dinner drinks. Here you go, have some of my energy, right? I mean, you should feel really boosted by that. So you want to ask for an antithyroid antibody and a TPO, thyroid peroxidase. Because I'm in such a chronic state of inflammation, I want to make sure that I'm not, and those are an inflammatory response to the thyroid.
What was the last one, Haylie?
TPO, thyroid peroxidase.
TPO, okay.
And a lot of times if you ask very specifically for them and you give them the because of, okay, and you need to say, look, I just lost 32 pounds. I've been on 125 micrograms of Synthroid for a long time. And I had a heart attack because of inflammation 12 years ago. You need to remind her of that every time she blinks her eyes. Oh, by the way, right? Because that's a big deal. And that's something that you want to nurture your body through, and you want her to be a partner. So then you're going to say, the other thing is with the significant fatigue, I always like to throw one in. I think that'll probably be covered on everything we're running. Right? Because we're such a good team. Okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to go through this again. Dear Dr. Lovebug, I'm having health issues that are very concerning. Additional to the normal labs I'd like to run at this visit, can we please run some diagnostics so that I can help define what's going on with me? The reason I'm requesting these is because I am experiencing extreme fatigue, significant weight loss, just throw that in there, extreme exhaustion, and I have a history of heart disease. I currently have elevated triglycerides, and my heart attack 12 years ago happened despite having a stable lipids. Please also note that I recently had a significant car accident and feel like I am in a state of inflammation right now. Because of the significant fatigue, the labs that I'm requesting should unveil some things that we need to work on. Because of significant weight loss and being on a high level of T4, Synthroid or levothyroxine, I would love to have you check my T3, T4, TSH, free and total, T3 and T4, and uptake, reverse T3, my ATA and my TPO. I know ATA and TPO are not in your normal panel and the others are. However, because I had a heart attack 12 years ago that was based on inflammation, and I've now been in a car accident, I'm dealing with inflammation, I want to make sure that I'm not attacking my own thyroid, and that's why I'm not swinging from the chandeliers and chasing my husband down, even though I'm at 125 micrograms. I also wanted to note that because of extreme exhaustion, it would make me feel a lot better to rule a few of the scary things out. So I'm requesting a CBC and a basic metabolic panel. I want to rule out any low-grade infection or any deficiencies. One last thing. As I mentioned, I had a heart attack 12 years ago. It was based around inflammation, it seems. I am having high triglycerides again. So let's make sure we check that lipid panel with triglycerides, as well as a liver panel and a C-reactive protein. Just want you to note, Doc, I'm still taking my 20 milligrams of statins, even though I have high triglycerides. And like I mentioned, I'm on that really high level of T4, and I can hardly stay awake when I sit in my chair.
Mm-hmm.
That's your story.
Okay.
Okay.
Do it.
Yeah, and you're going to highlight the labs that you want.
Right.
And if you push back, you need to say, can you please put in writing? Because I don't understand. This all makes really good sense to me in my health. And I know that you're my number one champion of health. I just cannot wrap my head around why we're not running these. So do you mind putting that in writing for me?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
These are okay, good. All right, guys. I hope this helps. We're going to do more of this. And do you feel a little more empowered?
I feel a lot more empowered, Haylie, especially because it was just last week, that I was at the doctor and got labs. So I really, really appreciate your help.
Absolutely. And don't hesitate to schedule a follow-up visit and say, hey, boy, did I come in here unprepared. Okay. I, for some reason, thought that someone else was the captain of my team. Totally blew it with the valuable time that I had with you. But I'm prepared and I'm excited for us to partner together today.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
All right. I can't wait to see what we find. I love labs. I love chemistry. So, okay, you guys, I want you to know what you're taking, know why you're taking it, know what you're asking for. Don't be ashamed. If you're not sure what you want, like Anne, I could not have planned this better. The conversation with the B12, everything you wanted because of reading about it and educating yourself. We just want to make a creative and successful way to getting what you want. There are many paths to success. And as you guys all know, where people see barriers to success, I see it as an opportunity to bring someone else along on our team, right? All right, guys, have an awesome day. See my next victim soon. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to another inspiring episode of Power on Your Plate with Haylie Pomroy. Please remember to share the amazing science and tools with someone you love. The more we know, the more we all lift our global health together. Visit www.hayliepomroy.com to get notes from today's show and to take your education and health to a new level of success and happiness.
Information on this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for the advice provided by your physician or other healthcare professional or any information contained on or in any product label or packaging. You should not use the information on this podcast for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease or prescribing any medication or other treatment. You should always speak with your physician or other healthcare professional before taking any medication or nutritional, herbal, or homeopathic supplement or adopting any treatment for a health problem. If you have or suspect that you have a medical problem, promptly contact your healthcare provider. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking professional advice because of something you've heard on this podcast. Information provided on this podcast and the use of any products or services purchased as a result of this podcast does not create any type of professional relationship between you and any of the associates affiliated with this podcast. Information and statement regarding dietary supplements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.